So this is a quick tutorial on how to use Sweep and Go in the Cal Poly labs. We're just going to test the voltage of the DC power supply out on the digital multimeter. So the first step is to, before you download the file, and the link will be provided to you, turn on all of the instruments at your bench, even the ones you're not going to use, including the oscilloscope and the dual DC power supply. So from there, we're just going to download the main SweepNGo.lib file from the download page. And it'll open up LabVIEW. So go ahead and launch LabVIEW. Okay, and this brings up your library manager. So we want to open the main.vi file, which should be the first file in the list. Just double click on it, and that brings you to the Sweep and Go interface for all of our measurement tools. So on the first page here, this is where if you want to collect extra data other than the DC power supply, the function generator, or the multimeter, then you need to flip these switches to turn them on. So you just click on the switch. It's pretty self-explanatory on this page. So on this page you set how you're going to step up your power supplies. So we just want to go with the DC power supply from the start voltage of 0 volts to a stop voltage of 10 volts, and we're going to go in steps of 1 volt. And then down here, the loop selector selects which voltage you're going to loop, and which would be the outer, middle, and inner loop. So just like a software loop, if you want to run the power supply in 10 volt increments, but for each increment of the power supply you want to change the voltage on the source meter, then you would do the power supply in the middle or outer loop and the source meter in the inner or middle loop, depending on, as long as the power supply is in a more outer loop than the source meter. So just since we're just running the power supply, it doesn't matter which loop we do, since the other two aren't going to change. And here, since we're going to do the DC power supply up to 10 volts, we need to change it to the high voltage output limit. We're going to allow it to run any amount of current it wants, so 0 on the limit is maximum, so that'll be 1.5 amps. The source meter we're not going to run, but you can set the current limit on the source meter here as well. And then we want the multimeter to collect DC voltage. Once again, this is pretty straightforward, either voltage or current for the Agilent or the Fluke multimeter. So then we go to the Collect Data tab, and here's where your data is going to output. You can select which value you want it to graph on the X and Y axis. Depending on what you've told it, it should have an idea of what you want to graph, but generally speaking, this output doesn't tell you too much until you get the actual data in Excel. That's where you'll find out if your data is good. So hit the Run button here, which is just the arrow pointing to the right in the top left. And when you hit that button, you should hear all of the measurement tools kind of click. And if they're running correctly, all the Agilent tools will have an RMT on the display, which means that they're being run from the interface on the back as opposed to the user interface on the front. So then this gives you a dialog box to choose where your output file will go. So just put it on the desktop. If you name your file with the .xls extension, then it will open in Excel automatically once you're done. Otherwise, you'll need to choose Excel as your program. So once you hit OK, it's going to run. And you can see it's plotting.
Hi there. Jack did such a great job, and I managed to erase the last section that tells you what to do after you've finished with the sweep of your values. The final thing you need to do is go in and open your Excel file, and you'll see headings on the columns with data underneath it. and those headings tell you which machine the data is for. And the important thing that you need to do is when you draw your circuit diagram or all that, clearly mark which machine is connected where, so when you go back and look at your data, you'll actually know what each column means, what you were measuring in each column. Then, of course, Excel lets you graph and display data in various ways, and that's actually where you should try to do most of your work. You shouldn't worry too much about what it looks like on the display on Sweep and Go, though with what you're doing today, the graphs should look pretty much like what you want them to on Sweep and Go as well as Excel.